Mario was looking for a recommendation for a Midnight Express match on the WWE Network.
Well, I don't know what's on the WWE Network.
They have every pay-per-view. They have every episode of WCW up until the, mid to the end of 89. That would really be the Midnight Express stuff. I don't know how much Mid-South from 84 they have, but
if they've got all the pay-per-views, because we had some main event matches at periods of time on the TBS show, but I can't call the exact date here. But Great American Bash 90, Midnight Express and Southern Boys, Wrestle War 90, Midnight and Rock and Roll. Let's see. Hold on here. What else? Pay-per-view wise.
Would you recommend the match from the Clash against Flair and Wyndham? What are your thoughts on that one?
Yes. Yeah, that was fun because that's the only time we ever worked with Rick on television as a tag team, I believe. And then also, I'm just saying at JimCornette.com, if you go to the DVD section and hit that button for the Midnight Express Wrestling Rarities DVD and see all of my various collection of private footage, candid photography, matches with the Rock and Roll Express, the Road Warriors, Dusty and Magnum, shot actually by a friend of mine with his high quality camcorder back in those days. The Tully and Arn title change, the fan cam that none of this stuff exists because it was never meant to be on television, so it doesn't exist anywhere else. And a bunch of stuff with the Rock and Roll, not only from Philadelphia but also from Japan. But that's just that. But yeah, I'd go with my favorite pay-per-view match, Midnight and Southern Boy. Because remember, all the matches with the Rock and Roll, the first time around in '86, where there wasn't any pay-per-view. And actually, we never worked with the Rock and Roll on that '86 run, except for the Superstars on the Superstation TBS special. There was no big shows and title changes that were on television and recorded. We won the belts from them on the Superstars on the Superstation show in February in Atlanta, but they won them back in Philadelphia in September at a house show. And as a matter of fact, that footage is available on that Midnight Express DVD I was talking about. But at any rate, so remember, and that's why I think Dennis Condrey gets cheated. That people don't know how good the Dennis and Bobby, honestly, as a wrestling working team, because of Dennis's body language and positioning and just everything was right there and nothing was wasted, and he never looked like he fucked up even when he fucked up, shit like that. They were a better working team as heels in a territory to get heat. And Bobby and Stan, because Stan was somewhat younger looking, but more cosmetically pleasing. Is that what they say? And for the pay-per-view era, and also just pretty. He's just pretty. Stanfield is just pretty, but also because they evolved into instead of the top drawing heel team, they evolved into the perennial semifinal steel show match guys that Dusty plugged us into, the U.S. Tag Team title thing. And Stan and Bobby were a better fit for that era. So, but at any rate, I think that probably until, when did we start working on paper? 88. Ooh, the Bash 88 with the Fantastics. And I'm in the straitjacket. That was just a great match because I had the best seat in the house. I got to watch it. It just, all my goddamn various limbs were going to sleep from sitting up there and having shit strapped around me. They put me one time in Mid-South. They couldn't afford a cherry picker, or there was not one in town, or whatever the fuck. And they had me sit in one of those little slings where you sit in the sling, you put your legs through it and hold onto the rope, and they draw you up in the helicopter.
Oh, man.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Except that's to be drawn up in the helicopter. I was sitting up there for a Midnight Rock and Roll main event house show match, 20-something minutes. My legs went so fucking to sleep, and I thought I was going to have them amputated. They had to drag me when I got down. Because I was in a straitjacket, so I couldn't support myself by holding onto the rope. The front of me was clipped to the rope, and the fucking things were around the bottoms of my tops of my thighs that I was sitting on, so it cut all my fucking circulation off. I'm up there screaming, "Hurry! Hurry!" Anyway, did that answer that question?
I think so. I'm going to recommend a few also. Fantastic's Midnight Clash of Champions 1 is a must-see.
Oh, I forgot about the Clashes also. I was thinking pay-per-views. But yeah, and yes, there you go.
You know what one of my favorite ones is, and I don't think it's on the WWE Network, and I'm surprised how much I like it considering it's a simple TV match, the very first Rock and Roll Midnight from Mid-South TV.
Yes, and I get that is up, right? Because people have been tweeting that, or were tweeting that for a while there.
I didn't think it was up. Maybe it is.
Is it not? Well, maybe they were tweeting it from YouTube then. But the point is the first match, and this once again violates every rule of booking except when you understand it, and then it makes perfect sense. We were shocked when we got to TV that night. It was one of the, I guess in February. We hadn't even started the program with the Rock and Roll Express yet. We thought that's where we were going to go when we got there. When we got there and worked the program with Wrestling 2 and Magnum TA, that was designed to get us over and put the belts on us after a nice little program. And then, later on 2 was going to switch heel on Magnum at the end of it. And then we figured we'd go with the Rock and Roll Express. Well, when we found out, probably maybe a week or two before, not even 2 weeks in those days, before we did it, that we were going to have a series of matches with Watts and go to the Superdome, and then we all shit ourselves and rubbed our faces in it because we were just happy as pigs and shit. But at that time, Watts had thought, well, after me and Dog beat them and put Cornette in a dress, they're not going to have any more fucking heat. We'll have to move them out. And so then it was like, we did not know that because Dundee never told us. Because Dundee told Watts, I think they'll still have some heat, right? I think we can do the program. So, of course, we have the program with Watts. And when he saw the people rioting to physically attack me after he had juiced and beat both my guys, jerked me into the ring, stripped all my clothes off, and either put me in a dress or a fucking diaper and fed me from a baby bottle like the little mama's boy that I was. The police that were protecting me on the way back to the dressing room were being physically assaulted by the fans. I mean, and I was losing a lot of them nightly, right? Because they were stopping to start clubbing people. And I had less cops at the door to the locker room than I did at ringside. It was scary. So then he's okay. So on TV, around about the time that we would have been doing all this stuff, they booked the first Midnight and Rock and Roll match as a TV match. Because the Rock and Roll were in a program with the Russians, Nikolai Volkov and Crusher Darso, so Crusher Khrushchev later on. So they gave the people a taste of the match. Dundee let Watts see what it would look like because he, obviously had a clue. He picked all of us as talent, but he hadn't actually seen that match. So Dundee books it on the show. It's 6 minutes of it was an abbreviated Midnight Express match. The high spots as fast as they could do them, fucking vicious heat as fast as they could get it, and then a run-in finish for a DQ where the Russians beat shit out of the Rock and Roll. And Watts liked that. And then when he saw that we still had heat after he killed us, they kept us on for another 7 months, as a matter of fact. So that's why that happened that way. Instead of the first match being on a big show at the Superdome or whatever, the first match, but with an inconclusive finish, was on TV in like 6 or 7 minute form so that people could go, holy shit, look at those guys. And then we get out of it, and then the people want to see it again than when we go back to the real program.